What's up guys, Ray from Kinsmen. Have you ever wanted to build your own amp? This year for my birthday I decided to buy this Mojotone Princeton clone and build it with my pops, and this is a video about how that went. So let's start off with the basics. This was a easy build according to Mojotone, and just a little bit of my background, I do own my own cable business. In addition to that, my dad is an electrical engineer. He worked for NASA and Strategic Air Command, doing stuff that I can't talk about and that he won't tell me about. And so to say we were prepared for this build would kind of be an understatement. We thought it was going to be a one-day project, and it actually turned into a 2.5-month project. So we'll get more into that, but let me talk about the good things I enjoyed about this build. I really like building stuff. I really like Legos, models, stuff like that. So this was really enjoyable from that aspect. If you like to put stuff together with your hands and kind of see a finished product at the end, this is a really good project for you. The sound is fantastic. I really just love that you can turn it up and get a little bit of like grit. That's really fun. And in addition to that, like, everybody could get their hands dirty. At one point I actually had my niece, who is a teenager, and she was actually helping me at different parts of the amp, just with little stuff, but it was still fun to say, like, you know, a lot of my friends and family had their hand in this amp. So that was fun. If you enjoy any of those things, I think this is going to be a good time for you. Okay, so that was the good. I really enjoyed the sound. I really enjoyed working with people, and it was just a good overall project if you're into like building stuff and seeing the end product. Let's talk about the bad. So I mentioned that this was probably the easiest on the lower scale of Mojotone's difficulty scale, and I found that even with my knowledge of amps, my knowledge with building things, I did make quite a few mistakes, and I did find quite a few errors in their instruction manual. I reached out to them a few times, and I would say that I was kind of on the fence about their responses. I sent lots of videos, I sent lots of pictures, and the responses I got were sometimes kind of vague and not very helpful, to be honest. But they always responded, so that's cool. Another thing that I want to make mention of was that if you're looking at learning about the design of an amp, maybe the way that things kind of flow, this is really not going to help you. So the way that it's laid out is it tells you do this first, and then you get to the wiring section and it's a picture. And I really want to talk about this picture because I'm a very meticulous person. Anybody can tell you that I have borderline OCD disorder because of how I like my stuff. And I followed everything on the picture as best I could. On that picture, there are some cables that are going underneath other cables, and when it was all said and done, I missed one. I actually put it in the wrong position. My dad found that because he actually went through the whole circuit from the schematic. There'll be a picture right here just to show you how in depth he got. So he spent an hour, I think he said, maybe 2 hours outlining the schematic that you're looking at. And he was able to find that I soldered one wire in the wrong spot. Maybe we'll add a clip of him because he has a really funny story about telling how I missed that wire.
Okay, what we have here is we have this wire that, if you trace it, should come down underneath into the second capacitor to this point here. So the way to check that wire without taking anything loose is to see we have continuity from here to here. Well, let's check it out. we come to the transistor or to the tube, and we place it here, and that wire should come down underneath to the second capacitor, and we should beep here. No continuity. If we go to the first capacitor, no continuity. If by mistake we soldered it to the third one, bingo! Should be soldered here. It looked like it's soldered on this one. The next thing to do is to take the board slightly loose to see we can see the connections underneath.
Okay, so very end of the build, plug it in, and I know everything's fine. I fixed that one wire and no sound. I sent a few videos to Mojotone. I posted a few videos on Gear Page, and there was not a lot of response as far as what was going on or what was going wrong. So week 12, I think it was, I go and I'm sitting down with my pops, and he has gone through the entire schematic, and he is kind of just stumped at what's going on. He has all the variances. He knows exactly what the tubes do, exactly what every resistor does. And I'm looking at the picture that is drawn out, and there's one wire, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I know I didn't put that in there. So I look at the board. That board is missing one wire. It's about this big. And it jumpers one section from the can capacitor to the main board to the next section. That's where that little jumper is. And that jumper is underneath other wires. Maybe we'll send a picture up on this part. And as you can see, it's really easy to miss. And for weeks, we were running down the circuit. We were running down tubes, trying to figure out where something went wrong, and nobody could really say anything. And at the end, it was all just one jumper. After that jumper was in, everything was perfect, and it worked and fired up just as it should. All that to say, I'm not really sure pictures are the best way for everybody to understand the circuit or learn anything other than this is a Lego set, put the Legos in. Last little bit that I want to leave you with before we close out this video is, one, they gave me a screw about this big to retain the power cord to the actual cabinet. The cabinet was pretty pricey, about 300 bucks, maybe a little bit more. I screwed in that screw to the cabinet, and it split the cabinet from top to bottom. It was real bad. Some of the Tolex array coming off. That's a bummer. A lot of the components, all the components are true to spec. So when you try to put those in, and when you'll probably be a little disappointed. So I upgraded a bunch of stuff on there already. Straight out of the box, I was just like, this isn't going to work. So I went with Sozo caps. I did Nutric RCA jacks. The RCA cables that came with it are a little sketchy, so I replaced those. Speaker cable, a little sketchy, replaced that. I think that's all I can think of. So caps, RCA jacks, RCA cables, speaker cable. Yeah, I think that's about it. The cab part was the biggest bummer for me because 300 bucks for an empty shell that split, that's a little sketchy. Lastly, and most importantly, at the end of this project, you may end up with a non-functioning amp. If you miss something, if you didn't make sure that the caps and resistors were in the right facing order, there's a lot of little things that you really need to pay attention to. And if you upgrade stuff, you're going to have to change part of the layout and circuit. Since I went to Neutrik jacks, I had to ground those through the very front of the amp, which means another wire that I had to add. There's quite a few things to really consider, because at the end of this you may end up with something that's non-functioning that you may have to take in. There's quite a few videos from Uncle Doug, really good guy on YouTube, and he's had quite a few of these clone amps where people just miss something minor and he ends up going and having to clean up a mess, which may be a little bit of a bummer. So think about that. Anyway, I really love the sound. It sounds really great. I'm going to leave you with a few sound samples. And I think it looks really cool too. Overall, I give it a 4 out of 10 rating as far as your process, your instructions, your components, all of that. Probably 4 out of 10. Sound, really like it. Probably a 7 out of 10. With all the upgrades, I think you can make it really close to 8 out of 10. It's not going to be a 2-rock, but it's not really meant to be. It's its own thing, and it sounds cool, and we'll see how it stands up over the test of time. One other thing I need to mention, and it could be something that I did, I'm not even sure, but this is, the reverb is insane. So this is 9 o'clock. Now when I turn it up, it's really noisy. And I don't know if that's something that I did or something that's just what it is, you know? Second thing, the tremolo is super subdued. That's intensity at 10. The speed is pretty low. I'm gonna bring back the intensity. Almost non-existent. So I don't know if it's something I did or not. I may take it into a buddy of mine that is the amp tech here in town, but I don't use it anyway. So to me right now, I'm like, whatever. But just wanted to make mention of it. Thanks for watching.